getting these live visuals from Laos, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi has now arrived. Remember, he is there to further deepen India-ASEAN engagement. And these are images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting with the Indian diaspora in Laos and, of course, signing autographs and meeting with the people who are assembled to greet the Indian Prime Minister with the tricolour in their hand. My colleague Siddhant is with us to offer more perspective of this very significant visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's. Siddhant, we all know how Prime Minister Narendra Modi could not be headed to Maharashtra for that state funeral that has been accorded to Mr. Ratan Tata on his passing because he had this important engagement already planned, and this is a very, very significant one while he is in Laos to increase that engagement of India and ASEAN. Just speak to our viewers about this and, of course, the significance of this trip that the Prime Minister has embarked upon.
Yes, Griha, you're absolutely right. Prime Minister has travelled to Vientiane, the capital of Laos PDR, with a heavy heart because he couldn't attend the final rites of Ratan Tata because of his commitment towards India's Act East policy. And he is in Laos today for ASEAN-India Summit and East Asia Summit. Perhaps very significant because India has completed a decade of Act East policy, and perhaps Act East policy has been driven by India under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. Griha, in his third term, Prime Minister has top priorities in foreign policy domain. One is to restore peace in Europe, and other is the focus in the eastern side, perhaps the Act East policy. And this is the reason that in just the first few months of him taking over as the Prime Minister for the third time, he has visited Singapore, Brunei himself, the Prime Ministers of Malaysia and Indonesia, Malaysia and Vietnam, I beg your pardon, were in India. And in fact, there have been a few visits that EMS Jaishankar has taken to ASEAN countries and the countries on the eastern side of India. NSA Doval was in Myanmar. So, there's a lot of emphasis to the eastern partner, and perhaps in terms of connectivity, in terms of trade, and most important one is the whole new Indo-Pacific theater coming up, and India's commitment for the free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Perhaps this visit of Prime Minister is very, very important. So he's going to hold India-ASEAN summit level talks today. And tomorrow there's going to be East Asia summit in which along with the ASEAN country, US, Australia, China and Japan are also going to participate. Perhaps also an opportunity for Prime Minister Modi to sit down for a bilateral talks with the leaders and also once again opportunity for India to show its commitment, to prove its commitment towards ASEAN centrality in the region.
Absolutely. Siddhant, like you rightly mentioned, this visit is marking a decade of India's Act East policy. When it is about deliberations of maintaining peace and, stability in the Indo-Pacific region, how much of that aspect is going to be a part of this particular summit? Because that becomes an important aspect of this visit of the Prime Ministers.
Well, yes, absolutely. And in fact, India launched the Indian Ocean Initiative last year during Prime Minister Modi's participation in the ASEAN meeting, and in the 100 days of Prime Minister Modi's third term, as I previously pointed out, the Prime Minister of Vietnam, Malaysia visited India. There have been multiple MOUs, agreements exchanged between two countries. And, this is the 10th in a row participation of Prime Minister Modi at ASEAN Summit. Perhaps, shows the emphasis that India is giving to its eastern partners and friends. There have been, the connectivity domain is something which India is really focusing on given this new Indo-Pacific theater coming up, Riha. There have been new flights that have been started between Cambodia and New Delhi. The announcement of direct flights between Brunei and India. So Cambodia and Brunei are the parts of ASEAN grouping. And there is also a very strong cultural connect between India and ASEAN countries when it comes to Buddhism, when it comes to Ramayana, Lord Ram plays a very important role. The countries are divided by borders but united by Lord Rama. And in fact, Laos, the country, perhaps has its own depiction of Ramayana, which is famous as Lao Ramayana. And shortly, Prime Minister will also participate in the screening of Lao Ramayana. And Reha, at the time of the inauguration of Ram Temple, and even before that, the famous groups of artists from Laos traveled to India to showcase the Lao Ramayana both in Ayodhya and Lucknow. So perhaps it's a historical and a time-tested relationship that India has with Laos and the other ASEAN countries, and perhaps once again to prove and show India's commitment to ASEAN centrality. Prime Minister Modi is in Laos, and he is going to have an action-packed 2-day visit to the country.
Absolutely. Siddhant, thank you so much for that. We'll keep an eye on this story. Remember, the Prime Minister has just touched down in Laos to a rousing welcome by the Indian diaspora. He was, in fact, awarded with the Guard of Honor and welcomed by the Home Minister there at the Vati International Airport. We're presenting to you live visuals of that same thing, and also the welcome that he received there, the Guard of Honor. We'll keep an eye on this story. Right now, we are, in fact, going into